video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all. Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel and I slept in late, so we are well behind schedule today. Today I've got a whole heap of interesting things to show you pertaining to Bitcoin, and I want to point at a couple of charts because, number one, Bitcoin should be about ready to find a half cycle low, which of course we've been expecting for some time. And number two, I wanted to point at Bitcoin dominance because we're going to get a very interesting setup, either confirm or invalidate in the coming weeks. Without further ado, MicroStrategy continues to buy more Bitcoin. Okay, so that's pretty wild. And Marathon is now getting on board and offering the same 0% convertible notes and using the proceeds to primarily acquire Bitcoin. So we're seeing this from Marathon now as well as MicroStrategy. Pretty interesting. I would speculate here we probably continue to see rotation out of MicroStrategy and into these smaller crypto miners. And I would think Marathon likely outperforms MicroStrategy going forward here. We've also got massive news coming out of Coinbase because Coinbase has partnered with Apple Pay to enable fiat to crypto purchases through the Coinbase on-ramp. Now, this is pretty insane because if you are newer to the space, then you don't really understand how many years this has been a speculation. For years and years, and I've even got multiple videos on the channel from 2.5 more years ago, where we were pointing at this and saying one day there will possibly be an Apple Pay integration with Coinbase or some kind of crypto exchange, and that will allow people to just go straight in through their iPhones and buy crypto. And for many years, this has been kind of conjecture or speculation. Like maybe one day we'll see that. And now finally, here it is, right? Here it is. So wild, wild times. I'm super happy to see this. I think the implications are kind of like they are letting retail have easy access at the top. Although with that said, maybe that is a little bit overly paranoid because it's not that hard to get a Coinbase app and buy crypto anyway. Certainly progression for Bitcoin and crypto, certainly another easier way to grab hold of some Bitcoin and crypto, and certainly continuing to break down the barrier to entry for newer investors to get into the space. So you're going to be able to just use your Apple Pay to buy crypto over Coinbase, right? Pretty cool, I think. Speaking of Coinbase, Coinbase still remains in the #1 app in terms of the finance apps and is approaching the top 10 again. So not necessarily an immediate sell signal, but the longer this continues, the more confidence we can have that we are getting towards tops. And in a similar fashion, we're also seeing new subscribers to various crypto YouTube accounts starting to turn up. Now, this right here, let me get my pen, looks nothing like this at the moment, okay? So again, that kind of speaks to having a lot more space to the upside for both the YouTube views and subscribers to pop up and for, of course, Bitcoin's price to do the same. I do think we're getting closer, okay? Certainly closer than we were back at about 49k. If this trend is to continue, again, historically speaking, it's just been one of many indicators that we can point to suggest that we might be getting a little long in the tooth with a rally. But again, short term, plenty of space to the upside. We also have cycles doing cycle things, as they always do, right? We will always find a narrative to explain away the price action and the cycles. And this time around is no different. Right as we are due a half cycle low for Bitcoin, we find a whole heap of FUD, with the government moving 10k Bitcoin worth just under $1 billion to Coinbase. We also saw the US government move 19.8k Bitcoin worth just under $2 billion to a new address. And of course, this always causes people to kind of get worried and concerned that they're about to dump the whole thing and crash the price. I don't really think that's the case. I just think they're probably shuffling the wallets around a little bit or whatever. And we'll see, right? If they dump the whole thing in one go, then we'll see that in the charts. But the cycles suggest we are about to find a half cycle low any day now and move higher. And again, if you've been watching the channel for any length of time, we fully are expecting this. We were fully on top of this the entire time. And we will continue to hunt that half cycle low and look for resumption of the upside thereafter. A similar kind of deal from an Elliott wave count here, or this Elliott wave ABCDE pattern. Okay, ABCDE, and off we go, just like we saw back here. And again, where we are right now is looking for that half cycle low, and then it should be off to the races. So happy days there. Now, with all of that said, as we know, we're expecting something like this to show up soon in line with the yellow squiggle. The big question for me, and a lot of you guys keep asking me about this, is what about Bitcoin dominance? Well, this is a weekly chart, and undeniably now, we are working on a breakdown, okay? A true breakdown here on the weekly time frame. Now, when I said earlier it's going to be really interesting and we're going to get an invalidation or a confirmation here, okay? If there is a chance at alt season, and if we are going to see alts start to really, really perform, I know some of them have been firing off, I know people get very, very excited, but for a continuation across the board, for breadth to open out in the altcoins, to see these altcoins mostly and largely speaking take out their prior all-time highs, then we are going to need to see some other metrics such as Bitcoin dominance start to move down sharply. So if what we get is that half cycle low that we're expecting and a move up, and what we see is Bitcoin dominance continue to break down, confirming this breakdown, or perhaps we get breakdown, retest and resumption, then I think we've got a lot more credence and credibility to be able to point at this and say maybe a true alt season is on the table, maybe my base case hypothesis that we wouldn't get one is going to be invalidated. But at the same time, okay, it's a market and we have to consider all possible outcomes. And there are two things I think you should be concerned about if you are an altcoin season champion right now. And that is, number one, if this half cycle low confirms and Bitcoin rips to the upside above 100K and Bitcoin dominance turns around during that move, okay, then alarm bells should absolutely be ringing. Now, I'm not going to come back and say I told you so as ever. I don't care about being right or wrong. I care about staying on the right side of the trade. And in terms of staying on the right side of the trade of altcoins, I don't care at all because it's outside of my risk tolerance. But if this thing is going to turn around, okay, and you're all in altcoins, I would be seriously concerned that something is wrong under the hood and you're not going to get that broad-based alt season. Similarly, if what we get is this and a chop sideways, something like this, that's not as alarming as if Bitcoin dominance turns around, but it is still pretty alarming, I think. So those are the two things you should watch for if you're all in altcoins. This thing turns around and I think you're in trouble. This thing grinds to the side and I think you're in trouble, albeit slightly less trouble. And if this thing is going to either break down, retest and resume or just plummet from here, then I'm completely invalidated. I'm wrong about alt season and maybe everyone is about to be a billionaire. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays. And of course, this breaking down heavily would speak to the pumps that we're seeing at the moment continuing to the upside. It would speak to new all-time highs being set in the altcoin market. It would also speak to perhaps seeing some of these coins pump and then that money rotate out into other coins that would then pump, okay, and then we get this kind of rotation out and everything pumps. That would speak to a huge alt season if this is going to occur. But if this thing, like I said, grinds or curls up, then that actually speaks to these current pumps likely being able to roll over. It also speaks to them not clearing new all-time highs. It speaks to them just completing retracements to lower highs relative to their 2021 cycle peaks and then rolling over again. So it's a market. Anything can happen, right? And I think a lot of people, they get overly emotional, overly invested. Their egos, they don't like to be told they're right or they're wrong or whatever. Okay, that kind of matters to people a lot more. But all I'm suggesting is if this thing curls back up, okay, I'm not going to say I told you so, I don't care. But if you're all in altcoins, then you stand to get wrecked. You stand not to be getting your new all-time highs and you stand to be seeing retracements and quick give-backs of the current pumps. So it's just something you should keep in mind. So it's going to be a super interesting couple of weeks. Stock market still pushing up, still following my yellow squiggle for now. So we will see about that. NASDAQ was getting a little bit more of a pop this week. So happy days so far. Dow Jones starting to work its way up a little higher as well. We'll see if we lose these third angles. And the VIX, I think, is slowly but surely setting up to give us that dream trade of somewhere in this green area. So happy days. Gold, a little bit more patience into a weekly cycle low and happy days there as well. And as you can see, everything's kind of going according to plan, right? Here's the yellow squiggle for Bitcoin updated. So one kind of push to the downside, find that half cycle low sometime around, I don't know, Wednesday, Thursday maybe. And then we should be able to get a breakout and a push. So super interesting times to be in the market. We're also getting dangerously close to seeing a daily cycle low for the dollar, and then we're going to find out, right? Then we are going to find out for sure. And of course, the yields continue to tell that to the bond market. So that's all there is, right? Sometimes you don't have to do much. You just have to sit back and let the market give you what it's going to give you. We seem to be in one of those times now. If you're a level 3 member, then gold miners, gold and silver positions, and crypto-related equities out of this half cycle low will be the focus. So look out for some updates on that. Otherwise, have a great week. I'm your boy Camel. Cheers. Bye.
Camel Finance, he's the man to see. Rocking the markets with his contrarian spree. Trades like a pro, no fear, no shame. Sticking to his guns in his money game. He's a bad